Russian BM-21 Grad eliminated after detection by Ukrainian drone reconnaissance. We have footages in which Ukrainian unmanned systems operators continue to inflict losses on Russian artillery assets in Donetsk region, further degrading the enemy's firepower along the front line. In the latest operation, Ukrainian forces successfully destroyed the BM-21 Grad multiple launch rocket system, January 15, 2026. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Aria in the latest podcast by Defense Report for sharp, no-nonsense breakdowns of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover how the sensor-shooter cycle, perfected by Ukrainian heavy bomber drones, is turning Russia's most prolific rocket launcher into a smoking $500,000 casualty.
Welcome. And for this deep dive, our mission is really to take that one tactical engagement from January 15th in the Donetsk region and use it as, well, a case study, a definitive case study in modern counter-battery warfare.
Because it's about so much more than one destroyed vehicle.
Exactly. When you look at this Grad kill, you're actually seeing two stories unfold at once. First, you have the precise anatomy of the destruction of this key Russian asset. And then there's this parallel story of how Ukraine is modernizing its own BM-21 systems to make sure they can survive this exact kind of threat.
And that's the cliffhanger, isn't it? We're going to unpack how these deep strikes aren't just tactical wins. They're actually, systematically dismantling Russia's ability to wage war with mass fires, and they're even hitting their ability to produce the next generation of strike drones.
It's a fascinating strategic picture.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's trace this specific engagement on January 15th. We know this BM-21 Grad wasn't just, sitting idle. The intel says it was actively firing on Ukrainian positions.
And that's the crucial detail. It was an active threat, which makes it an HVA, a high-value asset. It was in the middle of a fire mission, a potentially devastating one.
So who spotted it? How did they find it so fast?
The initial detection was handled by aerial reconnaissance, specifically the pilots from a unit called Lazar's group. Their ability to get eyes on it so quickly was absolutely critical. It allowed Ukrainian forces to neutralize the launcher before it could even finish its salvo.
So a preemptive strike, they caught it in the act.
They caught it in the act. The intel comes in, the recon drone gets the coordinates in real time. We're talking, milliseconds. And that data is immediately passed to the strike element.
And who's delivering the final blow in a mission like this? It has to be fast.
That job falls to the National Guard heavy bomber drone crews. These are not your small FPV drones. These are much larger platforms designed to carry bigger precision-guided munitions.
The so-called Baba Yaga drones, right?
That's the Russian moniker for them.
Yeah.
Named after the witch from folklore, because
Yeah.
they often operate at night very quietly and then suddenly deliver this absolutely devastating surprise.
And the footage we've seen, it wasn't just disabled, the whole thing was just vaporized.
It was a catastrophic success, a textbook example. The bomber drone dropped a precision-guided munition right onto the vehicle, but the key moment, the thing that guaranteed total destruction, was the massive secondary explosion.
Because it was fully loaded.
Fully loaded with 122mm rockets.
Yeah.
The impact set off a chain reaction. So you're not just damaging the launcher, you're destroying the system, the crew, the ammunition, a total loss, estimated at $500,000. It's proof that their sensor shooter cycle is working flawlessly.
So let's talk about the Grad itself, the BM-21 Hill. This is, it's a legendary piece of Soviet hardware. It's been around forever.
Since 1963, yeah.
Yeah.
It is the absolute workhorse of Russian artillery. It's all about raw, overwhelming firepower. It sits on that old Ural 4320 truck chassis, and it can launch a full salvo, 40 rockets, in just 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
And that can saturate an area the size of, 30 football fields, with a range of up to 40 kilometers. Its whole survival tactic was based on strike and retreat. You fire, and you have to be gone within 1 minute, moving kilometers away to a hidden spot.
But that 1 minute was designed for an era before constant, persistent surveillance from the air.
Exactly, before drones.
So why is it so vulnerable now? What's the fundamental flaw?
It really comes down to two things. Its range and its lack of accuracy. Because the rockets are unguided, the crews have to get dangerously close to the front line to be effective. We're talking 15, 20 kilometers out.
And that puts them right inside.
Right inside the kill zone of Ukrainian FPV and heavy bomber drones. To do its job, the Grad has to expose itself. And on today's battlefield, exposure means destruction.
And concealment is failing. You think about deep winter in Donetsk, temperatures are minus 15 Celsius? That engine's heat signature must light up like a Christmas tree on thermal optics.
It's a systemic failure of their entire counter-reconnaissance doctrine. You can throw all the camouflage netting you want on it, but a drone with a thermal camera thousands of feet up can see that glowing hot engine against a freezing background. The contrast is just enormous.
I even saw a report about a crew in Donetsk that tried to disguise a Grad as, quote, a pile of rubbish.
Right, and that tells you everything you need to know. They're using 20th century tactics against 21st century surveillance. It's futile.
And their countermeasures, like adding some basic slat armor, they're not really working.
Not effectively, because Ukrainian operators are smart. They're not aiming for the armored parts. They're targeting the Achilles heel, the unprotected launch tubes, the reloading area. A hit there guarantees that massive secondary detonation we saw. It ensures total destruction.
Which brings us to the other side of this coin. Ukraine isn't just destroying Grads, they're completely reinventing their own. Tell us about this Grad 2.0 project.
It's a brilliant example of adapting legacy hardware for the modern era. They're essentially taking the effective part, the rocket launcher, and putting it on a modern, highly mobile platform.
So they're ditching the old Soviet Ural truck.
Ditching the old Ural and replacing it with a modern MAN 6x6 diesel chassis. It's faster, more reliable, has better off-road capability, and, it's safer for the crew.
But the real upgrade isn't the truck itself, it's the electronics, right? The shift from analog to digital.
That is the absolute core of the upgrade. They've integrated a fully digital fire control and targeting suite. So instead of manual cranks and calculations, you have remote-controlled electric drives that are linked directly to targeting data from drones in command.
Which cuts down the shoot and scoot time dramatically.
Dramatically. You're shaving minutes off the process. If you can deploy, fire, and move in seconds instead of minutes, you massively increase your chances of survival. It's essential for this kind of high-tempo maneuver warfare.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate. If the Russians are also getting better at targeting and electronic warfare, isn't a Grad 2.0 just a more expensive target?
That's a fair question, and it's a real strategic challenge. That's why the hardware upgrade is only half the story. The other half is the network, the whole ecosystem, the long-range reconnaissance, and the tech they're using to defeat Russian jamming.
So let's talk about those eyes. How are they seeing so deep into Russian territory to begin with?
They're maintaining constant overwatch with advanced fixed-wing UAVs. Drones like the Shark or the Vector. A Shark, for instance, can fly up to 60 kilometers behind enemy lines. It can just circle, watch a Grad hiding in a forest, and wait for it to unmask itself to fire.
And all of this depends on overcoming Russian electronic warfare, the jamming.
Absolutely. That's where some of the most impressive innovation is happening. We're seeing them use things like special antennas and even radio repeaters, sometimes flown on other drones, to extend the range of their FPV strike drones past the jamming bubbles.
I've also heard about fiber optic drones being used.
Yes, that's another brilliant solution. A drone unspooling a fiber optic cable is immune to radio frequency jamming. That creates a reliable jam-proof kill zone that can stretch out 20, maybe 30 kilometers. It's a web of surveillance and strike capabilities that is becoming almost impossible to hide from.
The numbers really do tell the story here. This isn't just a one-off.
No, it's systemic. The SSU reported taking out 16 Grad systems in just 2 weeks with FPVs. And the open source trackers at Oryx have confirmed over 312 Grads lost. That is by far the highest attrition rate of any Russian rocket artillery system. It's just not survivable anymore.
So let's zoom out. We've talked tactics, we've talked tech. How does this systematic destruction of the Grad fit into Ukraine's bigger strategic picture?
It's about dismantling the very foundation of Russian military doctrine. Their strategy relies on massed fires, just overwhelming volume of artillery. The Grad is the primary tool for that. So taking it off the board is priority number one, but it goes deeper.
They're not just hitting the launchers, they're hitting the command and control, the eyes and ears.
Precisely. In that same time frame, they also took out other HVAs. Things like the rare Torfes Army-level command station, which is vital for communications, and the Murom-M optical surveillance complex. You take out the brain, you take out the eyes, and the launcher becomes useless.
And none of that is possible unless you can deal with their air defenses first.
That's the enabler. You have units, like the one led by Major Robert Magyarbravdi, that are systematically hunting Russian air defense systems deep behind the lines. We saw reports of 6 systems, like Buk and Strela 10, hit in 48 hours, some as far as 160 kilometers back. That suppression is what opens the door for the drones to operate freely.
And the campaign even reaches back into Russia's industrial base.
That's the other part of this integrated strategy. The SBU strike on the Atlant Aero plant in Taganrog on January 13th that reportedly stopped production of their Molniya attack drones and components for their Orion recon drones.
So it's a direct hit on their ability to wage future drone warfare.
It is. As the SBU put it, that's hundreds of drones that will not fly over Ukrainian cities. It's a campaign hitting the hardware on the field, the command networks, and the factories that build it all.
So when you put all that together, the tactical losses, the industrial hits, what does it tell us about the current state of the war?
Well, analysts are concluding that what we're seeing is a shift in Russian strategy towards punishment and attrition. They can't achieve major breakthroughs, so they're relying on these indiscriminate Shahid and Grad strikes to terrorize civilians and degrade infrastructure. Ukraine's strategy is the direct counter. Neutralize the source of that fire and choke off the supply chain that feeds it. And really what this all comes down to, what that Grad kill on January 15th represents, is the power of the human-machine team. That instant sensor-to-shooter cycle has completely upended the battlefield, and it's turned a Cold War workhorse like the BM-21 Grad into the most endangered species on the front line.
And for you listening, the relevance of this is direct and it's immediate. Every single Grad that's destroyed means dozens of lives saved on the front line. It means less pressure on critical hubs like Pokrovsk and Myrnarad. It's a tangible, life-saving outcome.
Which brings us to a final, provocative thought. We've talked about Ukraine's own Grad 2.0, so the real question for every military watching this is, can any conventional crude artillery piece survive on a modern, drone-saturated battlefield if it isn't fully networked and able to fire and move in a matter of seconds? If your old hardware can't join this new algorithmic kill web, is it just doomed to become another smoking wreck?
And that is the question that defense planners all over the world are scrambling to answer right now. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.